I need something to play while I talk about hockey. My lack of editing skills have given away my plan. I'm going to be doing some ranked today. If I sound stuffed up, it's because I am. Yes, this is a hand I can keep. Got emergency powers, double to fairy. There's a Kenrith. We're going to start with that. So we're just going to go through the NHL trade deadline trades one by one. I'm going to activate my owl. Oh. Resolve, yes. I don't need the thirst. Do I? I think I do. Okay. Let's drop Hallowed Fountain and pass. It's just thirst remaining end of turn. This is ranked, so we will see. Discard a land and a fairy, but I don't want to do that, so I'm going to drop that instead. And we're going to run out to fairy number 1. Because if I'm correct, this is control deck. The fairy is pretty much game over for them. Cool, apparently my 8-year-old laptop has no viruses. That's a good sign. Well, let's try to lay down second to fairy. And then I'll probably just play Stomping Ground tapped. Because there's nothing else I can do with it. Alright, so the first trade of the day was... This was yesterday. Ooh. I'm gonna just tick up that boy. And play an Overgrown Tomb untapped, revealing that this is technically a 5-color deck. Alright, so I'm just gonna go in the order that these show up on Cat Friendly. Decline that. Stitch, Island, and Hallowed Fountain. Ooh, and he taps out to play the Bone Crusher Giant. What a fool he be. Because here comes the Fires of Invention. And Kenrith the Returned King. And let's activate that. To give him trample. And put a +1/+1 counter on him. And then we swing him for 6. Essentially putting him on a 2-turn clock. Alright, so first trade of the 8 on this list is Carolina acquiring Brady Shea for a conditional 2020 first, the lower of the two that, the lower of the two firsts that Carolina has. Okay. Definitely Clear Island, definitely something I want. Let's go Kenrith the Returned King. And he's got the Scry in response. So what I'm gonna do is it's gonna resolve. I'm gonna give Trample and Haste. And I'm going to gain 10 life. Putting me back in my starting life total. So yeah, it's either one of Carolina's firsts, whichever one's lower for Brady Shea. I don't really see why New York would make this trade, considering they could make the playoffs. Like, oh, well, we won that one. Like, straight up, The Rangers are still technically in contention, and ironically, they're pretty much fighting against Carolina for that spot. But for Carolina, they get a pretty decent defenseman. This cap hit's a little steep. Blood Crypt. Yes, I need that. His current contract, he still has 4 years on. So I'm not. I don't know. It could work out. It also could not work out, but we will see if they make the playoffs and do well. Blood Crypt, Paying the Life, Fires of Invention, Narset Parter of Veils, Tick up onto Fairy, tick down on Narset, whiff completely. There we go. Next trade. Yes, I'm going to lay down the Deputy of Detention. And that is going to take out the Bone Crusher Giant. Gonna take down Narset. She's going to reveal another Teferi. Gonna take down that Teferi to do that. And then I'm gonna slam a Minimize Prophecy. Check out that. Play a new one. Select this one. Bounce that. Play Kenrith. All creatures gain trample and haste. I gain 5 life. Attack for 6. Okay. So, according to Cap Friendly, I don't know how much I trust this because this just looks weird. There was a 3-way trade between Chicago, Toronto, and Vegas. I thought it was just straight across. I thought it was just like Robin Lehner for Malcolm Subban, Slava Demon, and a second. Apparently there was apparently Toronto was involved in that and ate some of Lehner's salary. That doesn't look right, honestly. Like, if they did that, why would a cap-strapped team eat $2.5 million in salary for that? Yeah, this game looks like it's pretty much going to be over. Choose blockers. How many lands you got? No lands. You know, I probably should have taken out the Trample Enabler. Chicago gets Malcolm Subban, Slava Demon, signing rights to the ladder. and a second. Toronto acquires a fifth and $2.5 million of Lanner's salary, and then Vegas gets, or no, Chicago holds $2.5 million of Lanner's salary, and then Toronto holds $1.1 million, leaving $1.4 million for Vegas, and then Vegas also gets signing rights. And yeah, that's game over right there. Like, if he can't kill me there, there's something wrong with him. Honestly, I don't know how this, I thought it was just Slava Demon, Malcolm Subban, and a second for Robin Lehner when I read it yesterday. And that looked good. This looks weird. I don't know why Toronto would get in on this for a fifth. Here's a good one. Carolina Hurricanes acquire Sami Vatanen for Frederick plays on Janne Kukkonen and a conditional fourth if Vatanen plays 5 regular season games, and it becomes a third if he plays 12, or they make the playoffs and he plays in the majority of their games. Honestly, that's kind of a win-win. They get basically two prospects and a pick for a defenseman who's pretty good. So, yeah. Not a whole lot to say about that. Yeah, I'm scooping up this one. Eric Gustafson for conditional third. Chicago gets the better third. Chicago gets the better third if Edmonton's pick becomes Calgary's. Okay. I mean, you maybe could have gotten a second for Gustafson, but just because he had that 60-point year last year, and he's doing pretty well this year. But if you're trying to sell, just take the best offer. San Jose gets Anthony Greco and a 2021 from Tampa in exchange for Barclay Goodrow and a third. I think the real question here is why. Like, Tampa traded away Tampa traded away their 2 first-round picks for guys who are probably going to play in the bottom 6. And people were talking shit on Jim Benning for trading a first-round pick for JT Miller. They might have been able to get a first and a second. They might have been able to get more for him. Jeez. Sonny Milano for Devon Shore. That just looks like... yeah, that looks decent. It's an underperforming player, and he gets to change team. Not really a whole much to talk about there. Derek Forward for a fourth. That becomes a third if they make the finals. They play is half those games, or if he resigns. I mean, that's decent return. Matt Irwin and a sixth for Krabby and Holzer. That looks like Nashville trying to make the playoffs. I don't know if they do that this year, honestly. They have not played very well, leaning way too much on Pekka Rinne. And I am not quite dead, but if I draw a time wipe, yeah. Yeah, I don't think I don't think Nashville makes the playoffs this year, unfortunately. Alright, I'm going to play a serious deck and not my goofy 4-color Fires deck. Mono Red Blitz. A 4th round pick for Nick Cousins. I mean, you got something for him? Not really too much to deliberate on there. I'm an idiot. Wait, no, I'm not. There we go. Zane McIntyre for Louis Domingue. I think if Domingue can play anything like how he did in Tampa, then this trade turns out really well for the Canucks. And otherwise, it's just trading they just get a backup for Demko, who's honestly looked really good. I have my doubts about Demko, honestly. But no, he is actually looking like he played really well against Montreal tonight. Made 37 saves. So I think Vancouver probably wins that one. They traded away a career AHLer for someone who can be a serviceable backup to a playoff team. 6th round pick for that's an NHL trade. Dominic Cahoon for Evan Rodriguez and Connor Sheary. I mean, it's a trade. It's an okay trade. Not gonna attack with both. Just gonna offer up the Fervent Champion trade. And then slam the Bone Crusher Giant as soon as I can. There we go. Yeah, Cahoon's pretty decent. From what I can tell. Yeah, he's a point every other game player. That's a pretty okay stat line. Pretty much just displaying that I have that. He probably has the Infuriate. But I'm gonna Rimrock Knight the Fervent Champion. Okay, I have a second one, and I can take his Fervent Champion down with it. So I'm pretty happy about that. Yeah, so let's just do that. Edmonton gets Tyler Ennis for a 5th. I mean, it's pretty decent. No blocks. I have 16 life. I can take it. Okay. Let's drop the Robber of the Rich. And let's drop Torbran. Well, I was thinking, yeah, Ennis, I mean, he's someone who can probably play with McDavid. It's not a bad trade. And Ottawa keeps loading up on draft picks. This is a 2021 pick, but still. They need all the picks they can get, honestly. Oh, here's a big one. Detroit gets Sam Gagner with a bit of salary retained, 10%, 2 seconds for Andreas Athanasiou and an AHL player. Curious to see how Athanasiou will play if you put him on a line with McDavid or Draisaitl. That honestly seems like a pretty strong pairing. Danton Heinen for Nick Ritchie. I think Boston probably needed the cap space, honestly. There's an AHL deal, but Montreal comes out of it with a pick, so that's pretty decent. Anaheim gets an AHL player and a conditional fourth. That is the better of either the Philadelphia or Nashville pick, and Philadelphia gets Derek Grant. It's pretty okay. Whoops. Let's just do this and this. And this. Wayne Sims have retained to the Buffalo Sabres for a 2021 conditional pick that can upgrade to a fourth. That's pretty okay. Let's load more. There's another win. Pittsburgh gets Patrick Marleau for a conditional third. That becomes a second if Pittsburgh wins the cup. Probably not going to happen, but you honestly never know. I guess I kind of do hope they win. I'm not a huge fan of the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think that they're a team that receives a little too much favoritism from the media, but I like Patrick Marleau, and I hope he wins the cup with them. So I'm not cheering for Pittsburgh, I'm cheering for Patrick Marleau. Colorado acquires Michael Hutchinson and Toronto acquires Calle Rosen. That honestly just looks like Toronto offered Colorado Michael Hutchinson for whatever they could get back from that Kadri trade, and all they could get back was Calle Rosen. I don't know, I think Toronto had to do something at the deadline. Like, yes, you can say, oh, he's just supporting his players and being like, oh yeah, we believe in you guys, but they're not playing with any sort of urgency. Like, you paid them too early. Like, oh cool, a draw. Like, you don't give them their first contracts as like these big long things. You gotta give them the bridge deal, man. It's a fifth for Nate Thompson. That's pretty okay. Oh yeah, this is a big one. Carolina acquires Mini Trocheck for Eric Holla, Lucas Walmark, and then 2 AHL guys who aren't signed, so they are prospects. I don't know what Florida's doing here. They traded away a pretty good center for Eric Holla and some spare parts. I mean, Walmart's pretty okay. Let's just play this out and look at his stats here. He's on an expiring contract, it looks like, and he has 23 points in 60 games. It's not amazing. Don't get me wrong, it's okay, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this trade works out. A first, a second, and a third. The third is if the Islanders win the cup this year. So it's basically first and a second with the possibility of a 2022 third for Pajot, who then got extended with a 6x5. I think it was a 6x5. Yeah, I think it was a 6x5. Let's just boulder rush that. Make the bastard trade. Yeah, I think Ottawa won that trade pretty hard. I mean, Pajot is a really good player, but if New York misses the playoffs, which is a very real thing that could happen, then they've essentially then they've essentially shipped out a lottery pick, and it is top 3 protected, but if the Islanders miss the playoffs and Ottawa gets the 1st, 2nd, and 4th overall pick, that's going to be just hilarious. Colorado acquires Nemesnikov for a 4th. I mean, that's a pretty decent trade, no matter how you look at it. He does know about Phoenix of Asher's ability, right? And that comes back with a counter on it. Detroit acquires the contract of Kyle Brodziak for and a conditional 4th that becomes a 3rd for Mike Green. And it becomes a 3rd if they advance to the conference final, and Green plays in half the games. I mean, that's pretty decent. Edmonton needed defense anyway. Montreal gets a 3rd for Ilya Kovalchuk. You picked him up for nothing, so that's a win right there. You took a player that was placed on unconditional waivers and essentially couldn't be given away for free. You took him and you made him worth a 3rd round pick to a playoff contender. So I'd call that a win. And there's always the possibility he can re-sign at league minimum or close with Montreal next year if he did like playing there so much. That's an NHL trade, another one involving Toronto, because they want to look like they're doing something. Cody Eakin for a conditional 4th, that becomes a 3rd if Winnipeg makes the playoffs or re-signs Eakin. That's a decent depth trade. David Backus, 25% retained, Axel Anderson, and a 1st for Andre Kasha. That's pretty steep, but what can you do? there's a price that must be paid. And I'm talking steep for Boston. But whatever. Sometimes that's just what needs to be done. Another AHL trade. Well, yes, I think I'll attack them both onto Teferi. And he will die. And of course, I may have forgotten that that's not how that works. Oh well, Rimrock Knight. Another fucking AHL deal, another AHL deal, another AHL deal. Alec Martinez for 2 seconds. We're getting away from the trade deadline here, but it's recent enough that I can... Yeah, it's recent enough that I can call it. Huh. It's not a card I expected to see here. Embercleave the Rimrock Knight. Gonna move that over there. And we're gonna pass. 2 seconds for Alec Martinez. That's pretty decent. You can definitely win some. Games with Alec Martinez, and Vegas really doesn't have a good defensive core. It's essentially Shea Theodore for offense, and then after that, there's like really nobody of note. Another AHL deal. Mason Marchment for Dennis Milligan. Toronto very much looking to look like they're actually doing things. Scandella half retained for a second and a fourth. And if they re-sign in Scandella, the fourth is if they re-sign Scandella, or if they win 2 playoff rounds and he plays in at least half the games. That's a pretty decent trade. Again, you traded like a fourth or something for Scandella, and you turned him into a second, maybe a fourth. So that's pretty decent. And the thing about rentals is you can always trade them. You can always trade them, get the picks, and then re-sign them. Brendan Dillon to the Capitals for a second and a conditional third. It's a 2021 third. That becomes a 2020 third if they win the Stanley Cup. I don't know if Washington can win the Stanley Cup again. Holtby has not quite been what he was 2 years ago. Third for Dylan DeMello. I mean, the Winnipeg Jets really needed defense, so trading a third for Dylan DeMello, that's not a steep price to pay at all. Anus hardened in the forge. Another AHL deal. Here's one that affects... Here's one that hits a little close to home, because Vancouver's my local team that I follow. Tyler Toffoli to the Canucks for Tim Schaller, Tyler Madden, a second and a conditional fourth if Toffoli resigns. Yeah, that's a decent trade. It's really all to say there. Sucks to get rid of Tim Schaller because he was pretty okay. And Tyler Madden, he was a decent looking prospect, but I mean, in 3 games, Tyler Toffoli has like 5 points, 3 of which are goals and 1 of which is an overtime winner. So that's pretty decent. Yeah, I don't think the Canucks came out the bad side of that trade at all. Here's another weird one. Nolan Foote and a conditional first. It's the Canucks conditional first. For Blake Coleman. I'm not a huge fan of this from the Tampa Bay side of things, because you traded away a pretty decent prospect and a first for someone who's going to play in your bottom 6, which that's a pretty steep price to pay. David Quinville and a second to the Devils for Andy Green. And I think that's as far back. Oh wait, no. This is still technically a deadline. Or it's seen as deadline because it's close to the deadline. Alex Galchenyuk, Kalen Addison, and a conditional first that they can choose to send their next pick if they miss the playoffs for Jason Zucker. Again, this just makes me... I just look at that and think Tampa Bay definitely could have gotten more for JT Miller. Like, if that's what Zucker gets, and Miller is an objectively much better player than Zucker. Like, I'm not saying Zucker's a bad player, but I'm saying that Miller was a player who was getting pretty insane point production playing in a third-line role. Like, I think he was putting up like 50 points a year or something, playing in a third-line role. And yes, he's on a... Yeah, I think he was really hoping I would block there, which wouldn't have saved him. I don't know why he did that. Yeah. Oh, hey. The one actual trade that Toronto did. Trevor Moore, a third, and a conditional third for Jack Campbell and Kyle Clifford. I'll do one more game here. That's a pretty okay deal, I think. Because Toronto desperately needed backup goaltender who's serviceable. Campbell is that. Clifford can bring a bit of grit. Which, I mean, I don't think grit helps when you get when you can only score 2 on a Zamboni driver. I think I speak on behalf of a lot of people when I say that Toronto is not going to live that one down for a while. Whoops. That's nothing against it's the Zamboni driver, but he's a 42-year-old Zamboni driver. And, like, I don't know, I would think you would try to just get any shot you could on him. Like, what? Just go for it. Light him up. Yeah, that's really all there was for the trade deadline, which is pretty decent. Biggest winner of the trade deadline maybe New Jersey. They did a bit of fleecing. And yeah, who else do I think won? I think a loser might be, if Toronto misses the playoffs, then they're a sizable loser in this trade deadline. Because, yeah, they're in a situation where they paid these guys, now they have to make the playoffs, or else they're just kind of fucked. I don't know, I think Ottawa did pretty okay for themselves. They got a bunch of picks and could, in theory, be picking like 3 times in the first round. Actually, no, they will be picking 3 times in the first round of one of the deepest drafts in recent memory. So that's pretty good. And hopefully this draft doesn't turn out like some of the other drafts that were hyped up as some of the deepest drafts in recent memory. As we all remember how those turned out. And, well, if we don't remember how those turn out, then... I mean, that's lethal damage right there. Then, yeah. I think Vancouver did okay for themselves. They definitely bought. They got Toffoli. They got a serviceable third-string goaltender who has had a really good season in his past in Louis Domingue. And yeah. If I had to pick a loser of the deadline, I don't know, that's tough. Because there's a lot of teams out there that did moderately. Maybe Buffalo, although they could still make the playoffs, that's the thing. Anyway, I'm not gonna keep this video going too much longer because I still need to edit it tonight. And I may or may not be coming down with the cold. It's hard to tell right now, honestly. So, yeah, thank y'all for watching and tolerating my chatter about hockey. I know a decent amount. Some people may look at what I've said and be like, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I know more than it would possibly seem. It's hard to seem enthusiastic or knowledgeable when you're stuffed up. So yeah. Thank y'all for watching. Have a nice day, everyone. Just gonna slap out this shit here. I might have done something there. As opposed to taking 9 to the face. If he's got Witches up and claim the firstborn, then he deserves it. I mean, by deserves it, I mean he deserves a big old fuck you stick right at the keister, but... Sacrifice a creature, cool. Yeah, I'll sack that. Why did he do that? Not sacrifice an artifact, jeez. He can't muster enough. Oh my god, do you not read these cards, dude? Holy shit, it has double strike and trample. I could kill you without the double strike. Why did he not choose sacrifice as an artifact? Why did he go with sacrifice as a creature? Did he think it was destroy target creature? I don't know. I'm gonna edit a video and then play some Dark Souls. Because I hate myself.